So you recently read Never Let Me Go, and even though the main characters are clones, their experiences show us themes that transcend the novel. In this video, we'll explore the themes of identity and lies and deceit, to ultimately show how much harder it is to find your identity when being deceived.
Ishiguro develops the theme of identity. We see that finding your identity is one of the central struggles to human life. Even though Kathy and Tommy aren't necessarily human, they perfectly resemble humans in the life they live. Remember that part when Kathy was alone in the cottages? The part where she was looking through the magazines to find her possible, the porn magazines? These clones don't have a strong concept of identity, so they search for it in something simple like sexual urges. They believe their possible will tell them their true identity, but in the meantime, they look at the exterior of a person in search of their identity because they don't know how else to find it. Then we have the collections. Now you may be wondering how collections fit in with identity, but don't worry, we'll explain. As we know, many of the Hailsham students kept items from the sales. These items came from the outside and gave Hailsham students something to identify themselves with. Items such as a cassette tape or a pencil case became more than just items. They became part of the student. They had no identity for themselves, so they spent their whole lives trying to find it, and these sales were just one more way. These possibles were kind of a big deal. Ishiguro states, nevertheless, we all of us, to varying degrees, believe that when you saw the person you were copied from, you'd get some insight into who you were deep down. And maybe, too, you'd see something of what your life held in store. Kathy and friends were confused. They believed finding their possible would be the answer to who they are. But sadly, there are no answers for these clones. Their future is already planned and held captive. They're searching for an identity that someone else like them already has.
Lies are often used to protect us from the truth. In Never Let Me Go, we see that lies of omission are used to protect the clones from the harsh reality of their fate. Miss Emily believes that this is the best way. Miss Lucy, on the other hand, believes that the clones deserve to know what they are, even considering that they might not be happy with the truth. We often use lies of omission to protect people from the hard truth. Is being lied to worth not having to feel the pain of the awful fate? Tommy and Kathy were misled to believe in deferrals. Finding out the truth of deferrals seemed more painful than finding out the truth of donations. Learning about the possibility of putting off their fate was so extraordinary that when they found out there was no actual way of doing so, it was devastating. In order to eliminate the threat of having the clones potentially know the truth about themselves, Madam and Miss Emily found it necessary to fire Miss Lucy. Miss Lucy wanted the clones to know what they were, their purpose, and what lay ahead of them, and that if they knew anything less than that, they would be cheated. The whole point of Hailsham was to shelter the clones from their hopeless fate, but would it be better to give the clones as full as a picture as possible?
Now that we've explained the themes of identity and lies and deceit, let's take a look at how they connect. Like I said in the introduction, finding your identity is much harder when you're being deceived. Kathy, Tommy, and Ruth make this clear. They were lied to about their identity, which made the natural struggle of finding identity even harder. Miss Lucy told the students of Hailsham that they were told but not told about their fate, meaning that they were deceived. This made the clones wonder about who they were and gave them false hope about their futures. Even though the founders of Hailsham aimed to protect the clones, their lies were ultimately detrimental to the clones' identities.